Ladies and gentlemen, we are short 3 timers. We do need 3 volunteers who are willing to do some timing. We appreciate it very much. Event number 39, the girls 13 and over 200-yard freestyle, heat 1 of 13. Only 4 young ladies in the pool for this heat. In lane 4, we've got Megan Aquino. In lane 5, Megan Schloss. In lane 6, Emma Gallant. All of those young ladies swim for Tide. And in lane 7, El Colette with CGBD. Heat 2. In the pool for this heat, lane 1, Claire Grabowski with Tide. Lane 2 is Donica Steinmetz, also with Tide. Abby Kanak, with CGVD is in lane 3, with Leilani Eckham, a tide swimmer, in lane 4. Emma Thompson is in lane 5. She swims for CVAT. In lane 6, we've got Ansley Link from Poseidon. In 5, we've got Ashley Morrell from ECAT. Correction, at 7. In 8, we've got Audrey Schultz from CVAT. In 9, Lorelei Schatz. And in 10, Morgan Jenkins from Tide. Heat 3. Swimming this heat in lane 1, Alexis Minato with Tide. In 2, Gina McMahon, also with Tide. In 3, Ava Ashley with Poseidon. Caroline Gilly also with Poseidon is in 4. Sophia Thompson, Jessie DeVito, and Maeve Fitzke are in lanes 5, 6, and 7, all representing Tide. Sydney Rose is representing Poseidon in lane 8. Lacey Derrick, representing Tide, is in lane 9. And Natalie Grischuk, representing Poseidon, in lane 10. Heat 4. In the pool for this heat, Allison Soder and Lucia Isaac in lanes 1 and 2 representing CGBD. Avery Pugh is in lane 3 representing Poseidon. Leah Burton representing CGBD is in 4. Claire Hamby representing Tide in 5. Claire Scully representing CFAC is in 6. Marla Newton in 7, she represents Tide. Carter Palmer is in 8, representing ECAT. Chloe Lake in 9, representing Poseidon. And Violet Bailey in 10, representing Tide. Heat 5. Swimming this heat in lane 1 is Lillian Crawley with Tide. Ava Saunders is in 2, representing Poseidon. Ava Hamby in 3, representing Tide. Lizzie Kanak, representing CGBD, is in 4. Ryan Colburn, representing CVAC, in 5. Emma Landon, who is unaffiliated, is in lane 6. Bella Drozda, CGBD, in lane 7. Emma Helwig and Marina Soderlin are in lanes 8 and 9 respectively. They both represent Tide. And rounding out the field in lane 10 is Emily Brochu with CVAC. Heat 6. In the pool for this heat, we have Elise Schoenfeld and Zoe O'Brien in lanes 1 and 2. They both represent Tide. Karen Lee is in 3, representing CGBD. Ashlyn Pugh representing Poseidon in 4. Alana Crum representing Tide in 5, along with Ellie Quaresma also representing Tide in 6. Sadie Edwards, who is unaffiliated, is in lane 7. Lisa Eberly in lane 8, she's with Tide. Elizabeth Valent in 9 with Poseidon. And Abby Flores rounds out the field in lane 10. She is a Tide swimmer. Heat 7. In the pool for this heat, in lanes 1 and 2 respectively, are Yasmin Garcia and Becky Palmer, both with Poseidon. Grace Holland is in lane 3 with Coast Guard. Lana Mackay and Lucy Goodlove and Avery Breck are in lanes 4, 5, and 6 respectively, all representing Tide. Elsie Breadbenner with Poseidon is in 7, along with Ashlyn Sanderlin in 8, also Poseidon. And in lanes 9 and 10 are Cami Stambaugh and Jocelyn Irvin, both with Tide. While we have the chance, I want to make you aware that we've got our friends from Tropical Smoothie over by the flagpole and Aquaware behind the bleachers. Heat 8. Swimming this heat, we've got Renaya Jacob and Annie Avery in lanes 1 and 2. They're both tide swimmers. Abby Elias is in lane 3. She's with Coast Guard. Claire Graham is in lane 4. She is a tide swimmer. Vika Watson in lane 5 with Coast Guard. Nora Everhart in lane 6. She's a tide swimmer. Maddie Clark swims for Poseidon in lane 7. Brylan Gilbert and Alice South are in lanes 8 and 9 respectively. They represent Coast Guard. And Isabella Pugh is in lane 10 representing Poseidon. Heat 9. In the pool for this heat, we have in lanes 1 and 2, Rihanna Dela Cruz and Ella Arbuckle, both swimming for tide. They're in lanes 1 and 2. Veronica Dines, representing Coast Guard, is in lane 3. Maddie Guzman, representing Tide, is in lane 4. Maddie Wolf with Coast Guard is in lane 5. Emery Eberly with Tide is in 6. Brooke Ferguson with Coast Guard is in 7. And rounding out the field are Ellie Fickenshire, Sydney Whiteman, and Kaylee Jones in lanes 8, 9, and 10 respectively. All of those young ladies are with Tide. Heat number 10. In the water for this heat are Skylar Johnson, Lily Person, and Olivia Chung in lanes 1 through 3. All of those young ladies represent Coast Guard. In lanes 4 and 5, we have Maris Marcioni and Alexa Osment with Tide. In 6, we've got Sophia DeCruz with CVAC. Maddie Donaldson's in 7, she's with Coast Guard. And in lanes 8, 9, and 10 respectively are Maddie Timmons, Emily Tran, and Jacqueline Griner, all with Tide. Heat 11. Swimming this heat, starting in lane 1, we have Hannah Walker. In lane 2, Megan Pogozowski. Soihalia Rollins in 3. Afsana Rollins in 4. Bella Morrill is in 5. Maggie Wright in 6. Ainsley Graff in 7. And Layla Eberly in 8. Stella Dietrich is in 9. And Mallory McIntyre in 10. Hannah and Mallory both represent Poseidon. They're in lanes 1 and 10. All other swimmers represent Tide. Heat 12. Swimming this next to last heat of the event are Mackenzie Ortolano and Anna Eberly in lanes 1 and 2, both represent Tide. Bernie Musto is in lane 3 representing CVAC. Charlotte Everhart representing Tide is in 4. Madeline Paxton with Coast Guard in 5. Followed by Avery Taylor, Addie Roberts, Anna Iniguez, Sophia Kohler, and Caroline Giroux in lanes 6 through 10. All of those young women represent Tide. Heat 13 of 13. In this final heat of the event, we have Capri Moreno in lane 1, Mosley Crystalline in lane 2, Maggie Gahagan in 3, Sarah Teague in 4, Chloe Swats in 5. Those 5 young ladies represent Tide. In lane 6, we've got Molly Blanchard with Poseidon, Kendall Butler and Nora McMullen representing Coast Guard are in lane 7 and 8 respectively. Canna Fass in lane 9 with Tide, and Lydia Reed with Poseidon in lane 10. Event 40, boys 13 and over, 200-yard freestyle, heat 1 of 7. Only 5 young men in the pool for this heat. In lane 3, we've got Finian Boham with ECAT. In lane 4, Jude Carroll with CVAC. Lane 5 was a late scratch, so was lane 7. In lane 6, we've got Jabari Thomas with Coast Guard. Heat number 2. In the water for this heat are Gavin Weisner. In lane 1, he represents Tide. Harrison Ling and Daniel Key are in lanes 2 and 3 respectively. They're both unaffiliated. Keegan Richardson in 5. Logan Garth in 6, both representing Tide. In lanes 8 and 9, we've got Grayson Baker and Abe Fournier representing CVAC. And in lane 10, rounding out the field, we've got Joseph Seven Piper with Coast Guard. Heat 3. In the pool for this third heat, we've got Karsten Stiles with Poseidon, Timothy Eckham with Tide. They're in lanes 1 and 2. In lane 3, Elias Males with Poseidon. Lanes 4, 5, and 6 are all Tide swimmers. That's Gabe Winston, Aiden Bird, and Simon Bass. Lane 8 is David Lins with Poseidon. And in lanes 9 and 10, both representing CVAC, we've got Grayson Scully and Ada Ferguson Fairchild. Heat number 4. Swimming this heat are Matthew Leach in lane 1, he represents Tide. Eric Szabo represents Poseidon, he's in lane 2. Kevin Lang is also with Poseidon in lane 3. Bernard Kim with Coast Guard is in lane 4. Owen Klunkevitz and Vincent Tran are both Tide swimmers in lanes 5 and 6 respectively. Jaden Proctor is in lane 7, he represents CVAC. Colin Gadecki and Matt Boyden, both representing Tide, are in lanes 8 and 9. And Tanner Bryant, who is unaffiliated, is in lane 10. Heat 5. Swimming this heat are Austin Temple in lane 1, Bennett Ross in lane 2, Will Bettis in lane 3, Colt McCoy is in lane 5, Evan Shelton in lane 8, and Trey Hancock in lane 9. Each of these young men represents Tide today. Heat 6. Swimming this next to last heat of the event are Patrick Tran and Troy Salpeter, Peter Kraus in lanes 1, 2, and 3, all representing Tide. Brody Cox represents Coast Guard in lane 4. Lanes 5 and 6 are both Tide swimmers, Sean Gervais and Thomas Bird. Forrest Ward in lane 7 represents Coast Guard. Logan Kennemore in 8 is a Tide swimmer. Gabe Isley represents Coast Guard in lane 9, and Sam Lindsay is unaffiliated in lane 10. Heat 7 of 7. In the pool for this final heat of the event are Chase Wilkerson and Ben Knight, both representing Tide. They're in lanes 1 and 2. Thomas Dines of Coast Guard is in lane 3. Blaze Van Slyke, Bobby D'Annunzio, Colin Mamarill, Brandon Temple, Nate Keenan, Landon Luzak, and Connor Poole are in lanes 4 through 10 respectively. Each of those young men represent Tide. Event number 41, the girls 13 and over, 100-yard butterfly, heat 1 of 11. Before I announce the swimmers for this heat, we do have a black Speedo Parker with NMCM on the tag. It was missing from over near the warm-up pool. That's a black Speedo Parker. NMCM is on the tag. If you found this, please return it to the scorer's desk. Swimming this heat are Claire Zabowski in lane 3 with Tide, Sydney Rose with Poseidon is in 4, Sophie Dupree is in 5 with Molly Tippin in 6, Donica Steinmetz in 7, all with Tide, and Lucia Isaac with Coast Guard is in lane 8. Heat 2. Ladies in the pool for this heat include Maddie Patterson and Leilani Eckham, both with Tide in lanes 1 and 2. Liberty Cooper and Chloe Lake with Poseidon are in lanes 3 and 4. Carter Palmer with ECAT is in 5. Becky Palmer with Poseidon in 6. Emily Broku with CVAC in 7. Lane Gooding with Coast Guard in lane 8. Alexis Minato with Tide in lane 9. And Lorelei Schatz with Poseidon is in lane 10. Reminder that Aquaware is here. They're excited to welcome all the swimmers to the 2022 King Neptune Invitational. Aquaware is set up behind the bleachers for last-minute team suit needs. They brought the logo machine, goggles, caps, and more. Aquaware will be here until 2 o'clock this afternoon. Heat 3. In addition to suits, goggles, and caps, Aquaware also has the ability for you to order your parkas, warm-ups, backpacks, or embroidered sweatshirts for all of the teams represented here. They can be ordered today as well. And Aquaware is raffling off a team bag. For every $25 you spend, you'll have a chance to enter for a new backpack. The winner will be notified after the meet. Swimmers in the pool for this heat: Grace Holland, Abby Kanek, Elias Skupar, Abby Elias, and Gabby Rodriguez in lanes 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, all representing Coast Guard. Avery Ustick, Lillian Crawley, and Liza Gillum, all representing Tide, are in lanes 7, 8, and 9. Heat 4. Swimming this heat representing Tide are Sydney Gray and Anna Wang in lanes 1 and 2. Leah Burton with Coast Guard is in lane 3. Ainsley Ellick in lane 4 represents Poseidon. Laura Pollard representing Tide is in lane 5. Emma Landon is unaffiliated in lane 6. Brooke Ferguson representing Coast Guard is in 7. Ashlyn Pugh with Poseidon is in lane 8. And Ava Hamby is in lane 9 representing Tide. Reminder also that we have our friends here from Tropical Smoothie with a variety of items to fill you up. Heat 5. In the pool for this heat, in lane 1 is Vika Watson, representing Coast Guard. Karen Lee is in lane 2, also with Coast Guard. Sadie Edwards, who is unaffiliated, is in lane 3. Zoe LaFlamme is in lane 4. She represents Coast Guard. Abby Flores in 5 represents Tide. Ava Saunders with Poseidon is in lane 6. Haley Tessner in lane 7 represents Tide. Jaslyn Proctor is a CVAC swimmer. She's in lane 8. Cameron Pogazowski is in lane 9. She's with Tide. And rounding out the field is Annie Avery, also with Tide, in lane 10. Heat 6. In the pool for this heat, in lane 1, we have Anna Eberly swimming for Tide. Lydia Reed is in lane 2. She swims for Poseidon. In lanes 3, 4, and 5, we have Ella Arbuckle, Maddie Timmons, and Sarah Teague, all of whom swim for Tide. Lane 6, Lizzie Kanak with Coast Guard. Lane 7, Kaylee Jones, who's a Tide swimmer. In lane 8, Brianna Wallace with Coast Guard. In 9, Kirsten Jones with Tide. And in 10, Brylan Gilbert with Coast Guard. Heat 7. In the pool for this 7th heat of the event are Chloe Chet, who's unaffiliated. And she's in lane 1. In lane 2, we've got Ainsley Graff. In lane 3, Lise Markison, both with Tide. In lane 4, we've got Yasmin Garcia with Poseidon. In lanes 5, 6, and 7, we have Alice South, Maddie Wolf, and Caitlin Wilson, all of whom represent Coast Guard. In lane 8, we have Addie Rosen with Tide. And in lane 10, Sahelia Rollins with Tide. Heat 8. Before reading off the swimmers for this heat, I'd like to give a big thank you from the swimmer who lost the parka to whomever found it. In this heat, we have Canna Fass and Jacqueline Griner, both representing Tide in lanes 1 and 2. Avery Taylor is also a tied swimmer. She's in 4. Bermuda Granger, who's unaffiliated, is in lane 5. Isabella Pugh represents Poseidon in lane 6. Lily Person with Coast Guard is in 7. Olivia Chung and Elsie Breadbenner are in 9 and 10, respectively. They represent Coast Guard and Poseidon. Heat 9. Swimming this heat are Anna Inaguez, Maya Aloabasola, and Lucy Franco, Crystalline Mosley, Maggie Wright, and Charlotte Everhart, and Nora Everhart. They're in lanes 1 through 7 respectively, all representing Tide. Hannah Walker is in 8 representing Poseidon, and the field is rounded out by Lauren Gray and Capri Moreno in lanes 9 and 10, both of whom represent Tide. Heat 10. In the pool for this next to last event, or next to last heat rather, of the event, we've got Megan Pogorzelski with Tide is in lane 1. Maddie Donaldson with Coast Guard is in lane 2. Bernie Musto with CVAC is in 3. Emily Tran and Ellie Fischenbacher are in lanes 4 and 5 respectively. They're both Tide swimmers. Kendall Butler with Coast Guard is in 6. Chloe Swats and Mackenzie Ortolano are both Tide swimmers in 7 and 8. Olivia Mayo with Coast Guard is in lane 9. And Maris Marcioni with Tide is in lane 10. Heat 11. In this final heat of the event, we've got Mallory McIntyre in lane 1. She represents Poseidon. Alexa Osment of Tide is in lane 2. Molly Blanchard is in lane 3. She's with Poseidon. Lanes 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all Coast Guard swimmers. They're Phoebe Mayo, Willow Hansen, Delaney Cox, and Cameron Darnell. Sophia Kohler with Tide is in 8. And then Madeline Paxton and Nora McMullen are in 9 and 10 respectively. Both of those young ladies represent Coast Guard. Event number 42, the boys 13 and over 100-yard butterfly. Heat 1 of 9. Only 3 swimmers in this first heat. They are Jackson Layton, Scott Stuffelbeam, and Aiden Semenishek, all of whom are tied swimmers. They're in lanes 4, 5, and 6, respectively. Heat 2. We've got 8 swimmers in the pool for this heat. In lane 1, we've got Anthony Maldonado representing Coast Guard. Lanes 2 through 8 are Matt Boyden, Logan Garth, Will Wood, Riley Steele, Timothy Eckham, and Keegan Richardson, all of whom represent Tide. And Yosef Sevenpiper representing Coast Guard is in lane 9. Heat 3. Swimming this heat with Coast Guard in lane 1 is Garrett Root. Daniel Stowell with Tide is in lane 2. William Blashfield with Poseidon is in 3. John Prudhomme with Tide is in 4. In lane 6, we've got Jacob Coleman and 7, Evan Bowler, both with Coast Guard. Karsten Stiles is in lane 8 with Poseidon. And Gabe Wilson and Tyler Newton round out the field. They are both Tide swimmers in lanes 9 and 10. Heat 4. We've got 9 swimmers in the pool for this heat. Correction, 8 swimmers in the pool for this heat. Representing Tide in lanes 1, 2, and 3 are Bennett Weeks, Braden Crum, and Will Bettis. Lane 5, we have Kevin Lang representing Poseidon. Lane 6, 7, and 8, we have Coast Guard swimmers Quincy Garaton, Peter Zemba, and Cade Rogers. Rounding out the field in lane 9 is Troy Salpeter with Tide. Heat 5. Swimming this heat, we have for Poseidon, Tate Bupp in lane 1. Lanes 2, 3, and 4 are all Tide swimmers. That's Damon Harmon, Brody Salpeter, and Owen Klemkevitz. Lane 5, we have Sam Adelhar with Poseidon. And the rest of the swimmers all represent Tide. We've got Brian Koskowski in lane 6, Colin Godecke in 8, James Scarbeck in 9, and Trey Hancock in 10. Heat 6. We've got 9 swimmers in this heat. They are Jacob Sturgeon with Tide in lane 1, Nathan Gilly, Carter Whitescarver in lanes 2 and 3, both represent Poseidon. Jacob Batson is a Tide swimmer in lane 4. Charlie Syverston with ECAT is in lane 5. Thomas Bird in 6 is a Tide swimmer. Sam Lindsay in 7 is unaffiliated. Logan Canamore in lane 9 is a Tide swimmer, and Noah Rolfe in lane 10 swims for Coast Guard. Heat 7. Swimming this heat, we have Forrest Ward with Coast Guard in lane 1. Chase Wilkerson with Tide is in lane 2. Alex Bowler with Coast Guard is in lane 3. Kamani Brooks, Matthew Healy, Evan Shelton, Patrick Tran in lanes 4, 5, 7, and 8 respectively, all represent Tide. And rounding out the field in lanes 9 and 10 are Bernard Kim and Brody Cox, both of whom are swimming with Coast Guard today. Heat 8. In this heat, we've got Tudor Negrut representing Tide in lane 1. Justin Sayre and Emmanuel Elias representing Coast Guard are in lane 2 and 3 respectively. Tyler Schwartz, Colin Mamarill, Ben Knight, and Blaze Van Slyke are in 4, 5, 6, and 7, all representing Tide. Aidan McGowan representing Coast Guard is in lane 8. And Sean Gervais and Gage Spade in lane 9 and 10, both representing Tide. Heat 9 of 9. In this final heat of the event, we've got Brandon Temple and Bobby D'Annunzio. Correction, Temple's a scratch. Bobby D'Annunzio and Nate Keenan in lanes 2 and 3 representing Tide. Ryan Griffith represents Coast Guard. He's in 4. Joshua Fisher with Poseidon is in 5. Ian Rogers and Thomas Dines are in 6 and 7, both with Coast Guard. Spencer Campbell with Poseidon is in lane 8. Carter Wetstein is unaffiliated in lane 9, and Landon Luzak with Tide is in lane 10. Event 43, the girls 13 and over, 200-yard breaststroke, heat 1 of 8. Ladies and gentlemen, we could use your help again locating a parka. This one is a Tide swimmer. Gray parka, blue on the outside, or blue on the inside rather. Last name Marino is on the logo. Only 4 swimmers in the pool for this event. Addie Rosen, Sophia Thompson, Gina McMahon, and Marta Gonzalez all represent Tide. They're in lanes 4, 5, 6, and 7. Reminders that Aquawear is here. They're behind the bleachers selling to fulfill your last-minute swimsuit needs, goggles, team caps, and more. They do have the logo machine with them today. They are also here if you want to order a parka, warm-up backpack, or embroidered sweatshirt. And they've got all of the teams represented. Finally, they're raffling off a team bag. Every $25 you spend, you'll have a chance to win. The winner will be notified after the meet. We also have Tropical Smoothie here for those of you who are starting to feel that gnaw in your stomach. They are set up over by the flagpole. Heat 2. In the pool for this second heat, Lise Markussen, Molly Tippin, and Anna Huang all represent Tide. They're in lanes 1, 2, and 3. Representing Poseidon in lanes 4 and 5 are Caroline Gilly and Natalie Grischick. In lane 6, we've got Emma Thompson representing CVAC. Claire Jabowski is in lane 7 representing Tide, with Ellie McGowan in lane 8 representing Coast Guard. And finally, Morgan Jenkins and Emma Gallant representing Tide are in lanes 9 and 10. Heat 3. In the pool for this heat, we have in lane 1, Elizabeth Valent representing Poseidon. Brylan Gilbert's in lane 2 representing Coast Guard. Kayla Grabinski representing ECAT is in 3. Rihanna Dela Cruz is a tide swimmer in lane 4. Veronica Dines with Coast Guard is in 5. Marina Soderlund with Tide is in lane 6. Gabby Rodriguez is in lane 7. She swims for Coast Guard. Avery Pugh, who swims for Poseidon, is in lane 8. Audrey Schultz is in lane 9 with Seaback. And Maddie Patterson rounds out the field in lane 10. She swims with Tide. Heat 4. Swimming this fourth heat are Jocelyn Irvin and Layla Eberly, both from Tide. They're in lanes 1 and 2. Lanes 3, 4, and 5 feature Allison Soder, Bella Drozda, and Skylar Johnson, all swimming for Coast Guard. Avery Breck in lane 6 represents Tide. Claire Scully in 7 is with CVAC. And lanes 8, 9, and 10 are all Tide swimmers: Sydney Gray, Ellie Quaresma, and Bella Morrow. Heat number 5. Swimming this 5th heat are Claire Graham and Stella Dietrich in lanes 1 and 2. They're both tied swimmers. Maddie Clark swims for Poseidon in lane 3. Marla Newton in 4 is a tied swimmer. Leah Burton is a Coast Guard swimmer. She's in lane 5. And lanes 6 through 10 are all tied swimmers. Ainsley Graff in 6. Kirsten Jones in 7. Elise Schoenfeld in 8, Lisa Eberly in 9, and finally in lane 10, Zoe O'Brien. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of our parents and our volunteers, especially for your help. Without you, none of this would be possible. Heat 6. In the pool for this heat are Emma Landon in lane 1. She's unaffiliated. Capri Moreno with Tide is in lane 2, followed in lane 3 by Ashlyn Sandlin with Poseidon. Lanes 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all Tide swimmers. Sophia Kohler, Lauren Gray, Emery Eberly, Abby Flores, and Maddie Guzman are in those lanes. And rounding out the field in lanes 9 and 10 are Maddie Wolf and Elias Stupar, both of whom are with Coast Guard. Heat number 7. Swimming this next to last heat of this event, we have 9 swimmers. In lanes 1 and 3, representing Coast Guard, we have Vika Watson and Caitlin Wilson. In lanes 4 and 5, we have Afsana Rollins and Maya Alawasabola. Alawasabusola, I'm sorry. In lane 6, representing Poseidon, we have Mallory McIntyre. And in 7 through 10, all representing Tide, we have Cameron Pogrzowski, Nora Everhart, Sydney Whiteman, and Alana Crum. The swimmer who left a pair of rings with the meet marshal, please come to the the announcer's table to claim it, or to claim them rather. And my apologies to Maya and the entire Alawabasola family for butchering your name that last time. Heat 8 of 8. Swimming this final heat of the event are Avery Taylor in lane 1, representing Tide. Representing Coast Guard, we've got Zoe LaFlamme in lane 2. Lanes 3, 4, and 5 are all Tide swimmers. That's Lucy Goodlow, Christy Lynn Mosley, and Annie Avery. Chloe Check is in 6. She's an unaffiliated swimmer today. Lucia Franco and Maggie Gahagan are in lanes 7 and 8 respectively. They are both Tide swimmers. Delaney Cox is in lane 9. She's with Coast Guard. And Laura Pollard in lane 10. She is a Tide swimmer. If you're starting to get that mid-morning grumble in your stomach, a reminder that we do have our friends from Tropical Smoothie over near the flagpole. Also with us today, our friends from Aquaware, who have a variety of items available, some of which can have the logo imprinted today. Event number 44, the boys 13 and over 200-yard breaststroke. Heat 1 of 5. Looks like we've got 7 swimmers in the water for this heat. In lane 1, we have Harrison Ling. He is unaffiliated. In lane 2, Finney and Bohan, representing ECAT. Lanes 3 and 4 are both Tide swimmers. It's Matthew Leach in 3 and Ari Morozov in 4. Representing Coast Guard in 5 is Garrett Root. Eric Zabo, a Poseidon swimmer, is in lane 6, and the field is rounded out in lane 9 by Tyler Kampf, who is a Tide swimmer. Heat 2. In the pool for this second heat, we've got Parker Knapp and Ben Knight in lanes 1 and 2. They represent Tide. Grayson Scully with Seaback is in lane 3. Jack Valentine, Connor Poole, and John Prudhomme are in lanes 4, 5, and 6, respectively. They represent Tide. Peter Zemba, Evan Bowler, and Jacob Coleman all represent Coast Guard. They're in lanes 7, 8, and 9, respectively. And rounding out the field in lane 10 is Alex Keenan, who swims with Tide. Heat 3. In this third heat of 5, we have only Tide and Poseidon represented. Tide swimmers in lanes 1 through 6 are Cooper Schwartz, Nikki Stratton, Colt McCoy, Jacob Batson, Brian Kuskowski, and Ethan Stoll. In lanes 7 and 8, we have our 2 Poseidon swimmers. They are David Linz and Tate Buff. And lanes 9 and 10, we're back to Tide with Gabe Winston and Simon Fass. Heat 4 of 5. We've got 9 swimmers in this heat. In lane 1, we have Aiden Flores. In 2, we have Will Bettis. And in 4, we have Damone Harmon. They are all Tide swimmers. Lane 5, we have Ryan Griffith with Coast Guard. Lane 6, Jaden Proctor, who's a CVAC swimmer. And lane 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all Tide swimmers. They are Daniel Stowall, Connor Bradley, Braden Crum, and Vincent Tran. Reminder that Aquawear is here today. They're set up behind the bleachers for last-minute team swimsuit needs. They brought the logo machine. They've also got goggles, team caps, and more available. Also, if you need to order a parka, warm-up backpack, or an embroidered sweatshirt as the weather gets more chilly, they can do that here as well. Finally, they are raffling off a team bag. For every $25 you spend, you have the chance to enter for a new backpack. The winner will be notified after the meet this weekend. Heat 5. In this final heat of the boys 200 breaststroke, we have Evan Shelton with Tide in lane 1. Nathan Gilly is in lane 2. He swims with Poseidon. In lane 3, we've got Forrest Ward. He's a Coast Guard swimmer. Lanes 4, 5, and 6, we've got Brody Salpeter, Bobby D'Annunzio, and Sean Gervais, all of whom swim for Tide. In 7, we've got Carter Whetstone, who is unaffiliated. In 8 and 9, we've got James Scarbeck and Bennett Ross. They're both Tide swimmers. And rounding out the field in lane 10 is Gabe Isley with Coast Guard. That brings us to event 45, girls 13 and under, 50-yard freestyle. 13 and over, 50-yard freestyle, heat 1 of 13. Only 3 swimmers this heat. Emma Gallant and Megan Aquino are both Tide swimmers. They're in lanes 4 and 5. Elizabeth Narkovitz is a Coast Guard swimmer in lane 6. Heat 2. Starting in lane 1, we've got Marta Gonzalez in 2, El Colette in 3, Danica Steinmetz 4, Audrey Schultz, Lacey Derrick is in 5, Leilani Eckham in 6, Emma Thompson in 7, Claire Grabowski in 8, Sophie Dupree in 9, and Morgan Jenkins in 10. Heat 3. Starting again in lane 1, we have Megan Schloss, Maeve Fitzke in 2, Ainsley Link in 3, Abby Kanak in 4, Gina McMahon in 5, Sydney Rose in 6, Ava Ashley in 7, Ashley Morell is in 9, and Natalie Grishik is in 10. Heat 4. Swimming this heat are Ryan Colburn, Emma Hellwig, Sophia Thompson, Claire Scully, Violet Bailey, Marina Soderlund, Sydney Gray, Jessie DeVito, and Lucia Isaac. Starting in lane 1, working through 10. Heat 5. In the water for this heat are Karen Lee, Bella Drozda, Ava Sanders, Avery Ustick, Micah Watson, Emma Landon, Elias Stupar, Grace Holland, Kayla Grabinski, and Carter Palmer. Heat 6. In the water for this heat, we have Emily Broku, Liza Gillum, Cami Stanball, Haley Tesnier, Sophia Overby, Marla Newton, Sadie Edwards, Alana Crum, Ava Hamby, and Liberty Cooper. Heat 7. Heat 7 features Rihanna Dela Cruz, Jaslyn Proctor, Leah Burton, Emery Eberly, Alexis Minato, Ellie Fickenshire, Chloe Lake, Jacqueline Griner, Lucy Goodlow, and Annie Avery. Heat 8. In the water for this heat, we have Lizzie Kanak, Maggie Wright, Layla Everly, Veronica Dines, Hannah Walker, Becky Palmer, Zoe LaFlamme, Lana Mackay, Laura Pollard, and Kirsten Jones. Heat 9. In the water are Brianna Wallace in 1, Lise Marcussen in 2, Megan Pogazowski in Heat 10. In the water for this heat, Brianna Wallace, Lise Marcussen, Megan Pogazowski, Renea Jacob, Sydney Whiteman, Charlotte Everhart, Anna Huang, Anna Inagas, Bermuda Granger, and Ashlyn Pugh. Heat 11. In the pool for this heat, we have Lucia Franco, Olivia Chung, Addie Rosen, Cameron Darnell, Maggie Gahagan, Maya Oluwabasola, Maris Moscione, Christy Lynn Mosley, Lillian Crawley, and Ainsley Graff. Heat 12. Have to read faster on this one. Mackenzie Ortolano, Olivia Mayo, Afsana Rollins, Emily Tran, Sophia De Cruz, Kana Foss, Elsie Bredbenner, Brooke Ferguson, and Lydia Reed are all in the pool for this heat. Heat 13 of 13. Swimming this final heat of the event are Chloe Swats, Sohalia Rollins, Bernie Musto, Alexa Osment, Wallow Hansen, Molly Blanchard, Sarah Teague, Lauren Gray, Phoebe Mayo, and Maddie Timmons. Event number 46, boys 13 and over, 50-yard freestyle, heat 1 of 10. We've got Anthony Maldonado, Jude Carroll, Abe Fournier, Aiden Semenech, Jabari Thomas, Joseph Sevenpiper, Tyler Kemp, and Brandon Burkhardt in the water for this heat. Heat 2. This heat features Harrison Ling, Grayson Baker, Finian Bohan, Karsten Stiles, Cooper Schwartz, Logan Garth, Daniel Key, and Misha Bratsianku. Heat 3. Swimming this heat are Leighton Jackson, Riley Steele, Tim Eckham, Will Wood, William Blashfield, Jacob Coleman, Ari Morozov, Keegan Richardson, John Prudhomme, and Elias Miles. Heat 4. In the pool for this heat, David Lins, Ethan Stowell, Aiden Bird, Nikki Stratton, Tanner Brandt, Gabe Winston, Jack Valentine, Cade Rogers, and Will Downand. Heat 5. In the pool for this heat, Braden Crum, Kevin Lang, Tyler Schwartz, Scott Stuffelbein, Evan Shelton, Grayson Scully, Aiden Flores, Adam Ferguson Fairchild, and Gavin Wisner. Heat 6. Swimming this heat, we have Peter Kraus, Noah Rolfs, Colin Godecke, Trey Hancock, Bernard Kim, Rody Cox, Bennett Weeks, Bennett Ross, Logan Kennemore, and Sam Adelar. Heat 7. In the water for this heat, Jaden Proctor, Owen Klimkevitz, Troy Salpeter, Matthew Healy, Thomas Bird, Patrick Tran, Carter Whitescarver, Colt McCoy, Gabe Isley, and Jacob Batson. Heat 8. Swimming this heat, we have Jack Hancock, Brian Koskowski, Austin Temple, Brody Salpeter, Sam Lindsay, Landon Luzak, Charlie Siverston, Connor Poole, and Damon Harmon. Heat 9. In this next to last heat of the event, we have Nate Keenan, Alex Lineberry, Justin Grantham, Sean Gervais, Spencer Campbell, Kamani Brooks, Forrest Ward, Tudor Negrut, Thomas Dines, and Sterling Rogers. Heat 10 of 10. Swimming this heat are Karmer Wetstein, Brandon Temple, Blaze Van Slyke, Ian Rogers, Joshua Fisher, Justin Sayre, Colin Mamarill, Emmanuel Elias, Gage Spade, and Aiden McGowan. Event number 47, girls 13 and over, 100-yard backstroke. Heat 1 of 13. In the water for this first heat of backstroke are Megan Aquino in lane 3 and Molly Tipp in lane 4. They're both tide swimmers. In lanes 5 and 6, we have Elle Collette and Lucia Isaac, both Coast Guard swimmers. And then in 7 and 8, we have Marta Gonzalez and Morgan Jenkins, both of whom swim for Tide. Heat 2. Swimming this second heat, we've got Emma Gallant in lane 1. She swims for Tide. Lorelei Schatz is a Poseidon swimmer in lane 2. Megan Schloss and Lacey Derrick are both Tide swimmers. They're in lanes 3 and 4. Ashley Morell is in lane 5. She swims for ECAT. Emma Thompson is in 6. She swims for CVAC. Lane Gooding in 7, and Elizabeth Narkovitz In 8 are both Coast Guard swimmers, and rounding out the field in lanes 9 and 10 are Donica Steinmetz and Sophie Dupree, both of whom swim for Tide. Heat 3. Swimming this heat for Tide are Leilani Eckham and Violet Bailey. They're in lanes 1 and 2. For Coast Guard, we've got Abby Kanak in lane 3. Maeve Fitzke is a Tide swimmer. She's in lane 4. Lanes 5, 6, and 7 all feature Poseidon swimmers. It's Ava Sanders, Caroline Gilly, and Chloe Lake. Lane 8, Elias Stupar represents Coast Guard. In 9, representing Poseidon is Ava Ashley. And finally in 10, Allison Soder, representing Coast Guard. Heat 4. In the pool for this heat, we have Becky Palmer with Poseidon in lane 2. Ella Arbuckle swims for Tide. She's in lane 3. Avery Pugh is also a Poseidon swimmer. She's in lane 4. Followed by Liza Gilliam with Tide in lane 5. Brianna Wallace and Gabby Rodriguez are both Coast Guard swimmers. They're in lanes 6 and 7 respectively. In lane 8, we've got Ryan Colburn with CVAC. In 9, Liberty Cooper with Poseidon. And in 10, Bella Drozda with Coast Guard. Heat 5. swimmers, we've had a pair of goggles turned in. They were found behind the starting blocks. Swimming this event are Emma Hellwig with Tide, she's in lane 2. Jaslyn Proctor with CVAC is in lane 3. Marina Soderlund and Avery Ustick, both Tide swimmers, are in lanes 4 and 5. Ashlyn Sandlin is a Poseidon swimmer in 6. Alexis Minato with Tide is in 7. Grace Holland is in 8. She's a Coast Guard swimmer. Carter Palmer with ECAT is in 9. And Jessie DeVito with Tide is in 10. Heat 6. In the pool for this heat, we have Elise Schoenfeld, Kana Foss, and Anna Iniguez in lanes 1 through 3. They all represent Tide. Abby Elias and Brooke Ferguson are in 4 and 5. They represent Coast Guard. Addie Rosen in lane 6 represents Tide. Sadie Edwards is unaffiliated in 7. In lanes 8 and 9, we've got Laura Pollard and Lena Mackay, both of them are Tide swimmers. And finally in lane 10, Kayla Grabinski with ECAT. Heat 7. In the pool for this heat are Emery Eberly of Tide in lane 1. Maddie Clark with Poseidon is in lane 2. Karen Lee, who swims for Coast Guard, is in lane 3. In lanes 4 through 7, we've got Tide swimmers Cameron Pogrzowski, Anna Eberly, Abby Flores, and Sydney Gray. In 8, we've got Lizzie Kanak with Coast Guard. And in 9 and 10, we've got 2 more Tide swimmers, Zoe O'Brien and Ava Hamby. Heat 8.
My bad. That was good. My bad.
In the pool for this heat, in lane 1,
Okay.
we have Alana Crum with Tide. Avery Breck is in 2, along with Ellie Fickenshire and Kaylee Jones in 3 and 4. All 3 of those young ladies represent Tide. In lane 5, we have Alice Smith with Coast Guard. Haley Tesnier and Kirsten Jones represent Tide in 6 and 7. Olivia Chung, Emily Broca, and Elizabeth Valent round out our field. Olivia is the Coast Guard swimmer, Emily with CVAC, and Elizabeth with Poseidon. Heat 8. Correction, Heat 9. Looks like we have 8 swimmers in the water for this heat. Maddie Patterson, Megan Pogazowski, Jacqueline Griner, Lucia Franco, Emily Tran, Nora Everhart, and Rihanna Dela Cruz, all representing Tide. They're in lanes 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And in 9 is Maddie Wolf, who is our swimmer for Coast Guard. Heat 10. Swimming in this heat, we have Cameron Darnell with Coast Guard in lane 1. Sophia Overby in lane 2. She's a Tide swimmer. Lanes 3, 4, and 5 feature all Coast Guard swimmers. They are Kendall Butler, Maddie Donaldson, and Skylar Johnson. In 6, we have Mackenzie Ortolano, who swims with Tide. Isabella Pugh with Poseidon is in 7. Layla Eberly with Tide is in 8. Maya Oluwabisola, also Tide, is in lane 9. And Zoe LaFlamme is with Coast Guard in lane 10. Heat 11. Swimming this heat, we have Bernie Musto with CVAC. Correction, Sophia Delacruz with CVAC. Lydia Reed with Poseidon. Afsana Rollins, Sarah Teague, Sahelia Rollins, and Maris Marcioni, Lise Marcusson, Lillian Crawley, and Charlotte Everhart, all with Tide. And rounding out the field in lane 10 is Nora McMullen with Coast Guard. Heat 12. Swimming this heat are Bernie Musto in lane 1. She swims for CVAC. In lanes 2 and 3, we've got Avery Taylor and Maddie Timmons. They're both Tide swimmers. In 4, swimming for Poseidon is Mallory McIntyre. 5 and 6 feature Lauren Gray and Capri Moreno, both Tide swimmers. In 7 and 8, we've got Bermuda Granger and Chloe Check, both of whom are unaffiliated. In lane 9 with Poseidon, we've got Elsie Bredbender. And in lane 10 with Tide, we've got Maggie Gahagan. Heat 13 of 13. Swimming this last heat of the event are Olivia Mayo with Coast Guard in lane 1. Sophia Kohler, who swims for Tide, is in lane 2. Madeline Paxton and Phoebe Mayo both are Coast Guard swimmers. They're in lanes 3 and 4. Alexa Osment with Tide is in 5. Molly Blanchard is in lane 6. She swims for Poseidon. Delaney Cox and Willow Hansen are both Coast Guard swimmers. They're in 7 and 8. And finally, Maggie Wright and Chloe Swatz, both of whom swim for Tide, are in lanes 9 and 10. Event number 48, the boys 13 and over 100-yard backstroke, heat 1 of 8. In lane 1 for this heat, we have Misha Bratsianku with Tide. Jude Carroll with CVAC is in lane 2. Patrick Tran is a Tide swimmer. He's in lane 3. Anthony Maldonado swims for Coast Guard. He's in lane 4. Harrison Ling is in lane 5. He is unaffiliated today. In lane 7 and 8, we have Jabari Thomas and Joseph Seppenpiper. both of whom are Coast Guard swimmers. And in lane 9 is Abe Fournier with Seaback. Heat 2. Swimming this heat are Simon Fast in lane 2. He is a tied swimmer. Cooper Schwartz and Matthew Leach are also tied swimmers. They're in lanes 4 and 5 respectively. Grayson Baker represents Seaback in lane 7. Logan Garth in lane 8 is a tied swimmer. Daniel Key is an unaffiliated swimmer in lane 9. And Finian Boham with ECAT is in lane 10. Heat 3. In the water for this third heat of the event are Gavin Wisner and Scott Stuffelbeam in lanes 1 and 2. They're both with Tide. In lane 3, we've got Garrett Root. He's a Coast Guard swimmer. In 4, Eric Jabo is with Poseidon. Aiden Bird is in 5. He's with Tide. Adam Ferguson Fairchild is with Seaback. He's in lane 6. Keegan Richardson in lane 7 with Tide. Elias Mayles with Poseidon is in lane 8. Tyler Newton is in lane 9. He's a Tide swimmer. And so is Will Wood in lane 10. Heat 4. Swimming this fifth heat are Connor Poole in lane 1. He's a tide swimmer. Quincy Gerzon is in lane 2. He swims for Coast Guard. Owen Klimkevitz correct myself on that. Ari Mazarov is a tide swimmer in lane 1. Tanner Bryant is unaffiliated in 2. Timothy Eckham, Ethan Stowell, and Tyler Schwartz in lanes 3, 4, and 5 all represent Tide. Cade Rogers represents Coast Guard. He's in lane 6. And Peter Krause and Will Downen both represent Tide. They're in lanes 7 and 8. Heat 5. I got ahead of myself on that last heat. In this heat, we've got Connor Poole in lane 1. He's with Tide. Quincy Gerzon in lane 2. He's Coast Guard. Owen Klimkevitz, Logan Kennemore, and Colin Gadecki are all Tide swimmers. They're in lanes 3, 5, and 6, respectively. Noah Rolfs with Coast Guard is in lane 7. Tate Bupp with Poseidon is in lane 8. Grayson Scully is a CVAC swimmer. He's in lane 9. And rounding out the field is Peter Ziemba. He's a Coast Guard swimmer in lane 10. Heat 6. Eight of the 10 swimmers in this heat are with Tide. Correction, 6 of the 8 are with Tide. Jack Valentine is in lane 1. Nikki Stratton in 3. Bennett Ross in 4. Matt Boyden in 7. Damon Harmon in 8. Damon Harmon is in 7. Daniel Stowell in 8. Aiden Flores is in 9. And representing Poseidon is Nathan Gilly in lane 10. Heat 7 of 8. Swimming this next to last heat of this event are Alex Bowler in lane 1. He swims for Coast Guard. Austin Temple is in 2. He swims for Tide. Sterling Rogers is in 3, representing Coast Guard. Brody Salpeter and Tudor Negrut are in lanes 4 and 5 respectively, representing Tide. Charlie Siverston in 6 represents ECAT. Sam Lindsay is unaffiliated in lane 7. Will Bettis in lane 8 is a Tide swimmer. Carter Whitescarver in lane 9 swims for Poseidon. And finally, Thomas Bird in lane 10 is a Tide swimmer. Heat 8 of 8. Swimming this last heat of the event are Vincent Tran, Chase Wilkerson, and Alex Lineberry. They're in lanes 1, 2, and 3 and represent Tide. In lane 4, we've got Aiden McGowan representing Coast Guard. In 5, we've got Joshua Fisher. Josh represents Poseidon. Ryan Griffith and Ian Rogers both represent Coast Guard. They're in 6 and 7. Spencer Campbell is a Poseidon swimmer in lane 8. Justin Sayre, Coast Guard, in lane 9. And Brian Kostowski with Tide is in lane 10. Final event of the afternoon, event number 12, boys 13 and over, 500-yard freestyle event, heat 1 of 6. In the pool for this heat, we have Aiden Semyenek. He is a Tide swimmer in lane 2. In lane 4, we have Evan Bowler with Coast Guard. Lane 5 is William Blashfield with Poseidon. In lane 6, we have Jacob Coleman with Coast Guard. In lane 7 is Jackson Layton with Tide. In lane 8 we have Tyler Kampf, also with Tide. And finally in lane 9, Garrett Root with Coast Guard. Heat 2. Swimming this second heat, we have Adam Ferguson Fairchild with CFAC. He is CFAC. He is in lane 1. Lanes 2 and 3 have tied swimmers. They are Tyler Newton and Simon Fass. In lane 4, we have Eric Jabo with Poseidon. Lanes 5 and 6 are both Coast Guard swimmers. That's Peter Ziemba and Cade Rogers. And lanes 7 through 10 are all tied swimmers. That's Will Downand, Braden Crum, Riley Steele, and Aiden Bird. Heat 3. Looks like 8 of our 10 in the pool for this heat are tide swimmers. In lane 1, we've got Matthew Leach. Cooper Schwartz is in 3, Austin Temple in 4, Ethan Stowell is in 5, Matthew Healy in 6, Alex Keenan in 7, Ari Morozov in 8, Bennett Weeks is in 9. In lane 2, representing Poseidon, is Tate Bupp. And in lane 10, representing Coast Guard, is Quincy Gerzon. Heat 4. Swimming this heat in lane 1 is Peter Kraus. He's a tied swimmer. Connor Bradley, also a tied swimmer, is in lane 2. Nathan Gilly swims for Poseidon. He's in lane 3. Colt McCoy is in 4. Chase Wilkerson in 5. And Gage Spade in 6. They're all tied swimmers. Alex Bowler with Coast Guard is in 7. Sam Adelar with Poseidon is in 8. Aiden Flores in 9 and Jack Valentine in 10. Both of those young men are tied swimmers. As we get closer to lunchtime, I invite you to remember that we have our friends from Tropical Smoothie Cafe here over by the flagpole. We've also got our friends from Aquaware who are set up behind the bleachers for last-minute team suit needs. They brought their logo machine, goggles, team caps, and more. If you feel that chill in the air, that means it's time to order your parka, warm-up, backpack, or embroidered sweatshirt from Aquaware. Tide, Coast Guard, ECAT, and CVAC. Orders for the best-looking embroidered team gear can be done today. Finally, Aquaware is raffling off a team bag. For every $25 you spend, you'll have the chance to enter for a new backpack. The winner will be notified after the meet this weekend. Heat 5. Swimming this next to last heat of the morning session, we've got James Scarbeck with Tide in lane 1. Sterling Rogers is in lane 2. He's with Coast Guard. Ben Knight is in lane 3. He's a Tide swimmer. Carter Whitescarver is in lane 4. He swims for Poseidon. Nikki Stratton and Troy Salpeter are in lanes 5 and 6 respectively. They both swim for Tide. Emmanuel Elias in lane 7 swims for Coast Guard. And rounding out the field in lanes 8, 9, and 10 are Ian Garth, Daniel Stowell, and Landon Luzak, all of whom are Tide swimmers. Heat 6 of 6. And in this last heat of the morning session, we have got Spencer Campbell with Poseidon in lane 1. Lanes 2 through 6 are all taken up with tide swimmers. They are Parker Knapp, Tyler Schwartz, Blaze Van Slate, Bobby D'Annunzio, and Colin Mamarell. In lane 8, we have Joshua Fisher with Poseidon. Then lane 9, we have another tide swimmer, that's Jacob Batson. And in lane 10, we have Carter Wetstein, who is unaffiliated.